Hey everybody, welcome back to the Giver Method channel. My name is Jake and I'm so glad you're able to join me. Now today we're going to be talking about how you can awaken the strengths that you forgot that you had. This is about rediscovering those hidden gifts that you have that could be your superpowers. Without, quitting life or starting from scratch, bringing it all down, anything along those lines. Now, this is something that I know a lot of us are quietly wrestling with. There's that nagging feeling that you used to be really good at something. Like you used to feel more like yourself. But somewhere along the way between job and kids and the business or deadlines, like that part of you sort of disappeared. Maybe you were the creative one or the connector or the encourager or problem solver, but lately you're just the calendar manager or the crisis smoother, the inbox responder, the caregiver. Like, look, I get it. If you're a parent who's feeling like your entire personality has been replaced with snacks and schedules, or you're the entrepreneur who's forgotten what actually lights you up, or maybe you're the employee who's just operating on autopilot for years, just trying to keep your wheels turning. Like, if that's you, you are not alone. Like, this is going to open your eyes to so many things. Like, you're not alone, you're not broken, there's not something wrong with you. Like, you're just disconnected from your strengths that, make you feel alive inside. They've just been buried under this survival mode. And so I want to unpack this with you so that you can walk away with very practical ways you can go about solving that. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. Came out in November. Since coming out, it's been an Amazon bestseller. It's sold thousands of copies, has tons of 5-star reviews. It's the best $10 you could invest in yourself. I highly recommend that you take a moment, pause the video, go to Amazon, get yourself a copy. I'll put a link down in the description. You can find it down there to get yourself a copy. People love this because two reasons. Number one, it's grounded in my story. And so I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a parent. I've worked the corporate 9-to-5. So I've walked a similar path to you. And so everything I talk about has relatability to where you are in your life because I've been there. And then the exercises, action items, the different worksheets, the things that are in every single chapter of the book, like they're meant for people like you because once again, I designed them around who I've been and where I've gone. And so this is going to help you to unlock your gifts and superpowers, transform more people's lives, make an impact, and better influence people around you, create more value, deeper, more meaningful relationships, have a more fulfilled and joy and delight-filled life. I mean, who doesn't want that? And so for $10, you can start working your way down that path. So once again, I'll put the link in the description where you can go get access to the book, The Giver Method by Jake Talbert, or go to Amazon right now, go get yourself a copy, and make sure you leave 5-star reviews as a part of that. And so, like I said, people love it. One of the reasons is because it's in my story. It's grounded in my own story. And I know, like, I've been there. I understand this concept we're talking about today. Not just because I've helped others rediscover it, but because I've had to dig my own gifts back up. I used to think that like creativity was something I left behind in my younger years, but it turns out it evolved. It stopped looking like art projects. It started looking like how I parent, how I solve problems in business, how I build systems that actually help people. And that's what this video is going to be all about. Like, it's not about going backwards. It's not about quitting everything and starting over. It's about waking up parts of you that you still have that can offer so much to people out there. And right here, right now, where you're at, like if you just know how to access those things again. And so this video, I'm going to walk you through these six really simple strategies that help you discover your strengths that maybe you thought were gone, you forgot about. Find real ways to express them inside of the life that you're already living. Like, these are very practical and engaging tools for busy people with real responsibilities. That's why they're grounded in things within the Giver Method, is because it's meant for people like you. So I'm going to give you these frameworks that help you activate your authentic gifts, make a deeper impact, and finally feel like yourself again. And if that sounds like something that you want more of, then stick around. And if you want to dive deeper, once again, you can go to Amazon, get yourself a copy of the book. If you're looking for more personal support, you're looking for some one-on-one coaching, mentoring, I opened up a few coaching spots. You can find the link down in the description that breaks down all the details of coaching. And if it makes sense for us to jump on a call and discuss, we can walk that road together. Now, if you run a podcast, host an event, lead a team, host some sort of community thing where people are hungry for messages like this, then I'd love to bring this to your people. So you'll find links down below in the description for those as well. And of course, please like the video, comment your thoughts along the way, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications. Mostly as you go through this, just be here, be present, be present for what's about to be discovered for yourself, what you're about to uncover. Because you're not trying to get back to who you were. We're trying to wake up the version of you that's always been there and is quietly waiting for this exact moment to come alive. And so let's dive into it. Let's not waste any more time. The first strategy I refer to as you want to dig where fire was, all right? Just think about this like excavating authentic, the authentic capabilities you have. Like your life has buried treasures all around you. So how do we unearth those strengths that still live beneath the surface? Like, let me ask you something. Have you ever looked back at the past versions of yourself and thought, man, I used to feel so alive back then? Or where did that go? Maybe it was when you were leading a group or solving a problem like some sort of ninja, or creating something that lit you up, and now, like, just between the meetings or parenting, surviving, like, that version of you feels like maybe a lifetime ago. But here's what I want you to hear. Like, it's not gone. It's not buried. Like, and we're just going to start digging for it. We're going to go find it. So that's where this dig where the fire was, because instead of chasing clarity or waiting for some magical breakthrough that's never going to come, by the way, we go back to where the energy burned the brightest before. And we take those embers and we bring them forward into your life now. So here's how I want you to do this. Here's how I want you to start digging. Like, start digging for these things. Start with this idea of like a peak aliveness inventory, where you think back maybe 5 to 7 times in your life where you felt like the most you, the fully alive and engaged and just in the zone. You were in that flow state. They don't have to be big or shiny wins, just moments where like time disappears and you just came alive. Maybe it was organizing a huge event. It could have been back like organizing an event in college, or leading a small team at work before everything got heavy, or coaching your kids' soccer team and realizing you loved being in that leadership role again. Like, whatever it was, write it down. Not just what you did, but like what made it energizing to you, what came naturally, what felt fun and what felt easy. And don't overcomplicate it. Don't judge yourself about it. Just put whatever feels true to you. And so what you're looking for, that's where this gets good, is don't focus on the activity. We're looking at the underlying strength. That event planning moment, maybe you were actually showing off that you've got system thinking, people coordination or problem solving, that theater experience that you had. I mean, this was me, whatever. Maybe it was really about presence or quick thinking or connection. We're looking for these ideas, like there's these strength threads that are woven into everything. This is stuff that keeps showing up across different paths of your life. No matter the job, the title, the role, whatever that may be, they show up. So look at your peak moments and start pulling the threads and asking like, okay, well, what was I really doing there? What was the actual strength that I could have been using that lit me up? And most importantly, where could that still live within me today? How could that show up in my life today? And this, it works, and why it's not, like I said, it's not about going back. Like, the point isn't that in any sort of way. Like, you can't become your 22-year-old version of yourself again. It's about recognizing that the core way you're wired hasn't changed. It's just buried underneath meetings and expectations and caregivings and career ladders and all different things that come onto your plate. You're not trying to recreate the past. You're just reclaiming what still belongs to you. There's tons of data and research out there that even backs this up, that people who reconnect with those natural strengths show up with more energy, more clarity, and perform better across the board. So you've still got it. It's still in there. You just haven't been looking in all the right places. So dig where that fire was. Pull on that thread. Start bringing that part of you back. The one that it never really left. It's just bring it back into the spotlight. And that leads us into the rest of the strategies that you need to start diving into and thinking through. So the second one is going to be think of it this way: same strength, new season. Adapting the buried thing that you have to your current circumstance. How do I let my gifts grow with me as a part of that? Because if we're honest, one of the biggest traps that a lot of people fall into is that when we're trying to reconnect with our strengths, there's this idea that we've got to go back and do it the exact same way we did before. Hey, I used to be creative when I painted, so I guess I should go buy paintbrushes again. That's going to help me. I used to lead teams back in college. Maybe I need to coach a little league or something. Hey, maybe that works for some people. It might be something that does that. But for most of us, life looks totally different now. You've got a job, a business, maybe a family. You've got a calendar that looks like you're trying to, that it's, you can't just take the calendar down. You've got things there that are happening. So trying to replicate what used to work in a totally different season, it doesn't always click. It doesn't work. It doesn't jive well with who you are. But that doesn't mean that your strength is gone. It just means that it's time to translate it. And so here's what I mean. Your strengths, those real natural abilities that you used to lean into, they don't disappear. They just evolve. You're still wired the same way, but now you've got more wisdom. You've got more lived experiences and more layers, which means you can make that gift, that strength, even more powerful because of that. Now, that creativity that used to show up through painting, right? Maybe it shows up now through how you solve problems at work, or how you parent with imagination, or how you organize chaos into calm. That leadership energy, maybe that's how you run your household. Maybe that's how you mentor a team, or how you bring people together without even realizing it. So instead of asking like, how do I get that back? I want you to start thinking or asking yourself like, what could this strength look like now? And so let's talk about how you translate those strengths without overhauling everything. So the first little exercise I want you to do is, I call it the then and now bridge. And so there's going to be some blanks that you fill in as a part of the then and now. So think of it this way. You're going to basically think, back then I expressed my strength of blank by blank. Here's how I did it. Now that same strength shows up as blank in my current role as a blank. So let me give you the fill in the blanks part. I'll just give you an example. Back then I used to lead study groups and always help people get clarity on stuff. Now that shows up in how I mentor new employees or coach my kids through a school project. See, and you're not changing the strength, you're just finding a new way to express it that fits your life today. And then you can try this idea of context scanning, where you ask yourself like, where in my current life could this old strength actually solve a problem? Let's say that your strength was, you boil it down and you're like, well, it was really organizing chaos. Well, look around you. Where is there chaos? Your calendars, your kids' routines, your inbox, like that's your canvas now. That's where your inner strength can shine. And then lastly, just test it. And you don't have to make any sort of huge commitment. Just run some sort of small experiment. If you used to be creative, try making one thing work, a few more times this week. If you were great at being a connector, like maybe the goal is to just reintroduce connection into part of your daily life, lunch with colleagues, a short DM with a friend, whatever. The point is, just let it be small, let it be real, just do something, take some sort of action that way, because things start to build, confidence builds, you feel more fulfilled as you start putting yourself into motion. So you give yourself permission to adapt these gifts instead of trying to replicate or replace them completely. You unlock something that's really powerful, this upgraded version of you that honors both who you've always been and who you're trying to become. You're not just trying to squeeze your old strengths into the box that no longer fits you. You're trying to give them space to grow, and the version that shows up now, it's usually, like I said, it's deeper, it's richer, more sustainable, because it's more informed by everything that life has taught you. Those experiences you've gone through make these gifts, these strengths become superpowers, so you don't need to rewind. You don't need to, you don't need to try and squeeze into that thing. You just need to reinterpret, because your strengths that you once loved, they're still in you. They're just waiting to be used in the way that your life needs them now. And that leads us to the third strategy. So this is like, when your energy speaks, listen to it. Okay? Your natural strengths through these energy patterns that you have. Your body knows it before your mind does. So how to spot your strengths that you already are using, even if you don't realize you're using them yet. Something most people miss. Sometimes your strengths aren't hiding in the past. They're right there in front of you, present, quietly working behind the scenes. You just haven't been listening. While looking back, you can rediscover what made you feel alive before, and before your life got heavy. This sort of a strategy is about turning into the now, noticing where your energy naturally rises in the middle of real and everyday life. Because here's the truth, your body knows before your brain catches up. If you ever leave a conversation more energized than when you walked in, or lose track of time while solving a problem that others avoid like the plague, or feel oddly alive after finishing something that technically is just part of your job, part of what I do, that's not random, it's a signal. That's your strength showing up in real time. So let's talk about how we tune into the energy strengths, how we tune into those signals. And so you start with there's this simple 1 week practice of daily energy tracking, where a few times a day, pause and ask yourself how's my energy right now compared to an hour ago? Is it better, or is it worse, or is it the same? You don't have to change anything, just notice what kind of work, people, tasks, situations give you a little bit of a boost, and which ones are quietly draining you. And then next, pay attention to the engagement clues that are there. Ask yourself, when did I feel naturally focused today? When did I lose track of time in a good way? What made me feel a little bit more authentic, more like me? Was it helping solve a problem for somebody? Was it organizing chaos? Was it finding the better way to do something? Whatever it is, just jot those down without judgment. It might not look like anything at first, but you're creating this map. And then finally, look at where people just naturally come to you for things. You know, are you the go-to person if somebody's overwhelmed, or to simplify the mess, or the person someone sees, that they're like, hey, you see things that no one else sees. Sometimes your people know your strengths before you do. And that's worth noticing. You know, you don't need a whole life makeover to reconnect with these strengths. In fact, like, the fastest way to get back to your gifts might be right under your nose in the things that you're already doing. You just haven't given yourself full credit for. When you start paying attention to where your energy rises, you'll start seeing that your strengths haven't disappeared. They've just been operating in stealth mode. And the more that you notice, the more you feed those little sparks, the more that they're going to grow over time. And so this isn't about hustle harder. Like, it's not some sort of a hack. It's about getting into this natural rhythm, that flow state, one that fuels you instead of drains you. And the data out there backs this up like crazy. When people align more of their day around their energy patterns, they experience less fatigue, higher productivity, and honestly, they just feel more like themselves again. You know, so don't ignore the part of you that lights you up mid-conversation, or the way that you lean in when the right challenge shows up. Those aren't coincidence. That's you. Like, just remembering who you are. So let's grab it and run with it. Now, that's going to take us into the fourth strategy that we have, which is let's turn it back on gently. Okay, safely reintroducing those strengths without overwhelming your current life. Okay, how do we bring them back? I don't want to blow my life up. How do we do it in the right way? And so something that I see a lot, especially with parents, purpose-driven professionals, or entrepreneurs who are that start discovering these pieces of them that they thought were lost, and finally reconnect with that gift that once lit them up. And suddenly there's this urge to go all in. Like, I got to quit my job. I got to launch the new business thing. I got to rearrange my life. I've got to reclaim my talent. I get it. I totally get it. That's a part of a part of you that's been quiet for so long, and you want to make up for lost time. You get excited. You get energized about it. But here's the truth. Blasting your strengths back into full volume at once, is the fast track to overwhelm. You know, it's not just for you, but for your family, for your schedule, for your nervous system. And so that's why you want to do this gentle reactivation protocol. You know, and so this is for the version of you who's ready to bring these strengths back online without burning everything to the ground as a part of that process. And so here's what I want you to do. Start with, there's a strength stealth moves, where you find low pressure, no announcement needed ways to sneak those strengths into everyday life. You know, if you're a natural teacher, you don't need to launch a workshop, just explain something super helpful to a teammate or to a child. If you got an eye for systems and processes, you don't have to reorganize your whole house. Just create one smooth routine for your mornings. The goal is simple. Let's make it easy and so light to touch that there's no excuse not to start. And then next, there's this weekly strength experiment, where that's where we can set up a little bit more time. I'm gonna set a 30-minute timer once a week, and I'm gonna pick one small expression of strength that maybe I've been missing. Maybe I'm gonna write something. Maybe I'm gonna help a friend troubleshoot a problem, or I'm gonna pull out that old sketch pad, or I'm gonna lead a moment within a team meeting. You have to lead anywhere. You just have to let yourself feel like yourself again as a part of that thing. You know, and here's one more move that you could do. I love this one, and I love the concept of it's the permission slip practice, where you write down, and you basically are giving yourself a permission slip. You write down, you're like, hey, I give myself permission to explore my strength in whatever, creativity, strength, leadership, communication, within 1 week, without pressure or performance or needing to justify it. You know, and that one's for your nervous system, because sometimes even when we're ready to grow, we still have this inner part of us that's like, hey, are we really allowed to do this again? That voice that's in you trying to protect you. And so you give yourself that written permission slip. It becomes like that. Yep, I've got it. I've got it here in my pocket. I've got a real thing that says that I can. Once you come back to whatever once you come back to who you are, where you're feeling that doubt that is whispering, you silence it, and you're able to start moving forward. You know, look for your strengths. Look for the ones you want to come back online. Once again, they're not lost, they're just underused, but they need the path that fits your real life. And it's not about throwing everything away that you've built. It's about slowly reintroducing those parts that got left behind in ways that are sustainable and energizing and totally aligned with who you are. You know, people who bring their strengths back gently, without huge pressure of any sort of a life disruption, they are more likely to stick with those long term. You know, they actually find ways to integrate it into their families and professional lives. And more than that, like they start showing up with more confidence, more clarity, and more grounded joy. So if you're waiting for the right time to finally use these strengths again, don't wait for the perfect window. Just start small. Start steady, start where you are, because you don't need to like totally reinvent yourself to feel like, you don't have to reinvent everything to feel like yourself again. You just need permission to turn the light back on one switch at a time. And so that takes us to the fifth one, which is like the strengths didn't disappear, they grew up with you. How to recognize that you're stronger now than you were then. And because there's this sneaky lie that so many people carry with them, that the version of me back then, that was my peak. I hit my best, my top. You remember when your creativity flowed like crazy, when your leadership felt natural, when your empathy came easily, and now with all the responsibilities and exhaustion layered on top of things, like it feels like that version of you is gone. It's in the past. But here's what most people don't realize. Those strengths don't vanish. They evolve over time. You don't lose them. They've been maturing alongside you. So you're not working with the leftovers of who you used to be. You're just sitting on upgraded versions of those very same strengths, shaped by everything that you've walked through since. So let me give you an example. Like, let's say that you're a natural leader back in college. You rallied people, you led teams or whatever, you inspired others. Now, you might not be holding a megaphone, but you're managing a household schedule. You're guiding your team through tough seasons. You're helping your kids navigate school and emotions. That's leadership. Only now it's infused with patience or conflict resolution or emotional regulation. With it's richer, it's wiser, it's more complete. So let's talk about how we spot that growth that you're already carrying. And so think about it this way. There's the wisdom integration check-in, where you pick one strength that feels maybe nostalgic about. Maybe empathy, creativity, communication strategies. There's so many out there that you can pick from. And the Giver Method book has tons of ideas in it as well that you can check out. So whatever it is, ask yourself, what do I understand now that I didn't back then? How has life experience actually made me better at this, even if it looks totally different now? And you'll be surprised what you come up with. Maybe that empathy is now paired with boundaries, or creativity now knows how to navigate different constraints. Maybe your communication strengths now connect across age gaps, power dynamics, emotionally charged situations. And then what you can try is this then and now reframe. So back then, maybe the strength looked like late night jam sessions, mentoring with friends, organizing these events. Now, that same gift shows up through parenting solutions, workplace facilitation, business development. Same strengths, just an evolved form of them. And finally, and I love this one, do some strength visioning. Ask yourself, what would this strength look like now with everything I've learned? What would it look like to teach now that I understand learning styles and have more patience? What would it look like to create now that I know how things move forward despite chaos? That vision is likely way more powerful than anything you had in the past. And then, this starts to shift things for you, because when you see your strengths as outdated, you treat them like the museum exhibit, something to visit, not something to live in. But when you realize that you're matured alongside you the whole time, you stop chasing the past, you start building things with it. Once again, it's not about ignoring things, not about going backwards, it's about growing forward. And when you really get that your strengths have been quietly evolving this whole time, just waiting for you to notice, you move from this longing that you have into more of a leadership thing. So no, you're not a watered down version of who you used to be. You're the next chapter of the same gift, only deeper and wiser and more ready to make an impact than ever. And that leads us to the sixth and final strategy, which is this idea of make it fit, don't burn it down. How you integrate these strengths into real life that you already have. A lot of us think that rediscovering strengths means walking away from the life that we've built. That if we're going to be more creative or strategic or express ourselves again, it means that we have to quit something, change something, or totally reinvent who we are. And honestly, that belief keeps a lot of really good people stuck, because it's so overwhelming. The truth is, you don't have to choose between gifts and responsibilities. You don't have to replace life to express your strengths. You just need to learn how to weave them in. We talked about them being a thread. How do we start to weave those through? Strengths aren't meant to sit on the sidelines. If you're a parent, if your parenting could become the space for mentoring strengths to show up again. What if your job, think about it this way, even if it's not the dream job, but you could still become a place where creativity and people skills have room to breathe again. Once again, we're not overhauling our life. It's about finding the spots where your strengths already can fit and letting them take up a little bit more room, not explode the section. So try this, building this integration strategy. It start with something like a strength mapping through roles. Look at the roles that you already play. You're a parent, you're a spouse, partner, you're a entrepreneur, a team leader, a volunteer, whatever. And then ask yourself, like, how could one of my natural strengths show up here? Maybe your gift of systemized thinking helps streamline morning routines. Maybe your natural encouragement, shows up in how you coach a team member. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be real and authentic to who you are. And then next, practice like opportunity spotting. Don't wait for perfect projects or free time, because often perfect projects or free time don't show up. Just start noticing the moments when your buried strength naturally want to come out. Maybe you always want to jump in when someone's navigating a conflict, or maybe you light up when a colleague's stuck and you have a new way to look at something. Those aren't random. Those are the signals of what you're looking at. And then finally, there's the strength integration experiment. For 1 week, we're going to pick a rediscovered strength and intentionally use it in our normal routine. And that's it. You got a creativity strength? Great. Use it to solve some problem at work. Plan a family activity or make a meeting more engaging. If you've got the gift of mentoring, maybe guide someone who's stuck without needing to formalize it. Just pay attention to what feels energizing and where your strengths is finding its way back into your life. Because when you integrate strengths back into your life, not your real life, not some sort of fancy mythical life that you have. We want it in your real life. You start to feel whole again and authentic to who you are. You're not playing roles anymore. You're showing up as yourself in different spaces. You get to step into who it is that you are as a parent, step into who it is you are as a teammate or a leader. And when that happens, pressure drops, guilt fades, and exhaustion lifts just a little bit. You don't feel like you're living some sort of double life or not being authentic to yourself. You feel like you're finally bringing your full self with you wherever it is that you're going, into whatever the scenario may be. And so I want to leave this with you. Once again, you didn't lose any sort of strengths or misplace these gifts. They didn't vanish when life got full or with responsibilities. That's not what happens. They've just been riding in the back seat for a while, and they're quiet and patiently waiting for the moment when you're ready to bring them forward. And the truth is, you're not trying to go back to who you were. You're just wanting to step into who you've always been becoming. And what we covered today isn't about starting over or blowing things up. It's about waking up the strengths that you've always been yours, waking up the parts of you that never stopped mattering, even when life got really loud. And the best part is, you don't have to choose between being a responsible adult and using your gifts, or being a passionate human that you used to be. They're not conflicts. They easily work together. Creativity, leadership, your ability to bring calm, spark ideas, organize chaos, connect with people, cast a vision, encourage, build, whatever. None of that's lost. It's just been buried in your survival mode. But now you're ready. You don't need to do some life overhaul. You don't need to quit your job or escape your role or carve out, all this time, whatever. You just need to start letting those strengths show up where you already are, at home, at work, in conversations, in any moments, not perfectly and not all at once, just a little more real you coming through each and every time. And if this hit home for you and you're thinking yeah, this is for me, I want to keep going, then grab your copy of the Giver Method book. The link's down in the description to go to Amazon. Like I said, the best $10 you could invest in yourself. It's going to walk you deeper into the journey, as a part of that, step by step of not just remembering who you are, but living out with purpose. And if you're craving more support, more one-on-one attention than that, and you want someone in your corner to help you feel reawaken and realign yourself, well, that's where I've got a few of those coaching positions open. You can check out the link below and see if it makes sense for us to jump on a call and discuss that. And of course, if you've got a stage, a team, podcast, mastermind, event, whatever, space where people are wrestling with these same types of tensions as they grow, then I'd love to speak in that room. And let's talk about how we could bring this message to serve your people. That link down below for speaking and podcasting is there. And hey, if anything landed in this video, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what stood out to you. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell for notifications so we can keep walking this path together. Here's what I want you to remember. You're buried, the buried strengths that you have. They're not relics of the past. They're not old versions of you. They're seeds. They're growing in the dark, ready to bloom into something stronger, wiser, and more aligned than ever before. So you don't need to go back to who you were. You just need to start becoming who you always have meant to be. And so I'll just say thank you so much for spending the time with me. I look forward to seeing who it is when you start to step more into those gifts that have already been there. And I will catch you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day.